Hey guys, it's Pebbles. Thanks for watching Pebbles Eats Plants. Today we're going to talk about how to adapt a recipe to meet your own tastes and dietary needs. So whether that's a recipe that isn't vegan and you want to make it vegan, or if it has a lot of oil in it or ingredients you just don't like, one of the most valuable skills to making delicious, healthy food at home is being able to adapt recipes to your own dietary needs and tastes. So that's what we're gonna do today. A few weeks ago, I made an enchilada casserole from Straight Up Food by Kathy Fisher, and it was pretty delicious. One of the changes that I made to it, because I almost always make changes to recipes, again, to suit my own taste, was instead of using the corn that the recipe called for some reason I thought that hominy, which is also actually corn, but it's that canned kind of stuff, I'll show you in a little bit, that hominy would be really good in it, and I hadn't had hominy in a while, so I made that swap, and it really turned out great that way, and it kind of reminded both me and Mr. Pebbles of tamales, because it had that kind of just corn flavor that was really delicious. And we got talking about a tamale pie and how good that would be, and so I wanted to make one. A lot of the recipes out there are basically chili with cornbread baked on top, and that's delicious, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. Then I remembered a recipe that I made a long time ago. I used to make probably about 2010, maybe around that time, and it's a recipe from Hungry Girl, who I was pretty into at the time. Her recipes were really easy, they were compatible with Weight Watchers, and there was a lot of attention paid to, volume and kind of calorie density without using those words, so they work pretty well for me. This one in particular is called Out Turkey Tamale Pie. It's made in a crock pot, and so I am going to show you today how I'm going to take a recipe and turn it into something that is low-fat, oil-free, vegan, and that suits me and Mr. Pebbles. So come on over and I'll show you how I do it. Thanks.
So this recipe was actually a pretty easy one to adapt. It was already no oil, but it did call for cooking ground turkey and putting that in. Obviously, that's not happening here. Last time I made this, I first made Mary McDougall's Tofu TVP, which is basically crumbled and seasoned baked tofu. You could also use the store-bought crumbles of whatever kind. It turned out awesome, but having to make something ahead of time kind of defeats the laziness factor of using the crock pot. This time I'm using 2 cans of drained black beans. Kidney or pinto beans or combo would be good too. Someday I might even try the recipe with soy curls. The next 2 ingredients are cornmeal and chicken broth. That's obviously an easy swap. Just leave out the chicken broth and use your favorite veggie broth instead. I'm using a cube of chickenless broth here that I rehydrated in water before adding the cornmeal. Combine those and then let those just stand while you work on the rest. The next ingredient that the recipe calls for is 1 can diced tomato with chilies. Last time I made this, I used a can of diced tomatoes plus a can of chilies because I already had the diced tomatoes. This time I'm using tomato sauce instead, kind of to see what happens. I wanted it to be maybe a bit saucier, and so sauce seemed like the way to go. I'm also throwing in a diced green pepper so that there's something green, and because I like them. The recipe calls for 1 small onion chopped. I only have giant Costco-sized onions, and I like onions, and I don't like having leftover bits of things, so that's what I'm using, just a whole onion, whatever sized. I really do prefer using whole things for recipes, like the whole can, the whole vegetable, rather than using little bits of things. Next, the recipe calls for a 1/2 cup kidney beans. Not this time. I'm using hominy instead, and I'm not only using the whole can instead of measuring, but I'm using a giant can. What can I say? I'm kind of into hominy at the moment. The next thing the original recipe calls for is a half a cup kidney beans. I'm skipping that because I already used 2 whole cans of beans. It also calls for a half a cup olives. Let's be real, I would prefer to add at least 1 full-size can of olives, but I'm not eating those right now, so we're just going to stop talking about olives. Okay? Okay. The last 2 ingredients are 1 tablespoon chili powder and 1 teaspoon cumin. I can tell you right now that's not going to be enough for me and would be super bland, so I'm going to use 3 tablespoons of chili powder. It's basically the same as the enchilada sauce from the Vegan 8 that I like so much. I'm using those seasonings in this because I really like that flavor and it's very flavorful. And then I'm going to use 1 teaspoon garlic powder. And then 1 teaspoon onion powder. And then of cumin, I'm also going to use 1 teaspoon. Okay, maybe 2. And then I am going to use 1 teaspoon of salt. I switched to the half teaspoon. I'm using 2 half teaspoons, which equals 1 teaspoon because I didn't want to get cumin and chili powder into my salt container. Now just add in the cornmeal and broth mixture. And then you're going to give that a good stir all together. After you stir, you want to make sure that you actually taste what you're making. See what it tastes like, see if it needs anything. I've decided that mine needs a couple of tablespoons of food glitter, aka nutritional yeast. After that, you can give it another nice stir and then put the lid on and set the timer. The original recipe calls for cooking on low for 7 to 8 hours or high for 3 to 4 hours. I'm setting mine for low on 8 hours because I'm going to be gone all day anyways. I did also set the delay by 2 hours so that it wasn't sitting and warming for those extra time while I'm gone away from the house. Okay, now I'm home from work and my tamale pie is all ready. It smells amazing and it looks kind of like tamales all stirred together, but it tastes delicious, I promise. So how should you serve this? The recipe suggests topping with cheese and sour cream and scooping it up with chips. That sounds amazing, but it's not really going to work for me right now. So a tip for anything time you're cooking something in the slow cooker or even really the pressure cooker or InstantPot, sometimes things have kind of a homogenized taste after they've cooked in there. So I really like to add a fresh ingredient on top. So whether it's adding a little squeeze of lemon juice at the end to a soup or putting some fresh scallions on top of something, just adding something to give it a little bit of extra taste and texture will really improve the flavor and quality of your overall dish. So anything like herbs, green onion, jalapeno pepper, vinegar, crunched up crispy tortilla chips, something to just kind of add a little something. I served mine a couple of different ways. The first day I just piled it in a bowl, topped it with diced tomato, some crispy air fried oil-free tortilla strips, and green onion, a little bit of lime. I have the little lime packets and just a little tiny sprinkle gives it a nice little kick, and also some chipotle flavored Tabasco. The next day, when I had leftovers, I made both a tostada, so an air fried corn tortilla with this tamale filling pie stuff piled on top, plus lettuce, tomato, jalapeno, and lime, and some salsa. And then I also, after I ate that one, it all sort of fell apart into the bowl. So my next round was just a taco salad with lettuce topped with the tamale pie and the other toppings and some baked tortilla chips on the side. I bet this would be good wrapped up in a burrito or in potato skins or lots of different ways. So if you make it, let me know what you think and how you adapted it to your own taste. And thanks for watching.